Good evening, world. Welcome to our first episode of Connecting Ends. Real life, real talk, real people. Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome Ms. Castro to the show. This evening, she'll be speaking on her experience handling the global pandemic, COVID-19.
Thank you, Ms. Barber, for having me on the show.
Anytime, you're welcome, Ms. Castro. As we all know, this is a very touchy subject, but today we are here to acknowledge the loss of your loved one. This evening, you'll finally have the opportunity to express your feelings at 100%. Now, Ms. Castro, can you explain to us your experience with COVID-19?
Yes, definitely. I'm a cardiovascular sonographer, and I worked in the hospital as well as outpatient during COVID-19, and I saw the fear amongst me and my fellow colleagues because of the uncertainty of what this virus can do. I dealt with patients who were very ill, and different situations that were brought upon to these patients because of COVID-19. But what especially hurt me the most was the death of my mother due to this virus.
Now, Ms. Castro, can you tell us what kind of person your mom was?
Absolutely. My mom, she was a woman of valor, a strong woman, a warrior. She taught us to be resilient and to fight through any of our, battles that we had. My mom, she was a charismatic, a lively woman, full of fun and energy. The list goes on, to explain my mother, but she was definitely one of a kind.
Now, that sounds like your mom did an impact on your life and other people's lives. Can you describe to us what kind of impact?
Absolutely. My mother's energy, her positive energy, had shifted any feeling, any emotion in the room. My mom, she was a very caring person, and as the general attorney stated in New Jersey, was she was like the Robin Hood. My mom, helped those who were in need. She translated for immigrants or people who didn't speak, English. And, she tried her best to help everyone. My mother, she was definitely one, humanitarian for sure.
Wow. When did your mom start getting sick? Do you remember, like around a month?
I would say it was the last week of March on a Tuesday. And, my mother, she, I warned her plenty of times about the virus. And unfortunately, due to political things that were on the TV, she didn't really have too much fear. She was, believing more in hope that everything would, just kind of subside and disappear. But with any global pandemic or any epidemic, these things don't resolve on their own quickly. So my mom fell ill on a Tuesday, and it happened very quickly. She fell ill, had a fever. The next day, her lips were blue, and I forced her to go to the hospital, and there she was at the hospital quickly.
The hospital. About how long before things went from ups to downs with your mom?
With COVID-19, the issue is that we don't know anything. There's much more that's been discovered after research, but COVID-19, the symptoms, the whole experience it's a roller coaster ride. There's waves. You feel great, you feel optimistic, then you feel like that maybe this could be the end for me. And I'm speaking also my experience of having COVID-19. You definitely have a lot of ups and downs, and you really don't know where it's going to lead to. And it's really a really hard fight. So she had her moments where, her oxygen levels were very low when she was admitted. She fought through, we were all optimistic. And then I would say maybe 3 days before April 7th, she felt optimistic. And then from there, things progressed for the worse.
For the worse. In the midst of all of this going on, at any time did the hospital allow you to be there, or was this just always like a phone contact? Did you get to see your mom?
Unfortunately, because of the situation, all the uncertainty, my mom, was in the hospital during the peak, our first wave of, the peak. Holy Week to be exact, and nobody was allowed to be at bedside with your loved one. So unfortunately for a lot of patients, a lot of people, they died without anyone by their side. And, that's what, I think affects a lot of people the most, is that you couldn't be there during their dying days. So, I mean, treatment was well for what it was at the beginning of the peak. The classic regimen of hydroxychloroquine, vitamin C, but, with people with other issues, that's not enough.
Wasn't enough. Just per se, from a scale of 1 to 10, during your mom's whole stay, do you think the hospital provided her with enough care? Do you think from 1 to 10 they could have did more for your mom, that she would have been here?
I think that we all wish that, any healthcare worker could do much more than what their scope of practice is. But there was a lot of limitations, and you can't just fixate on one thing. So there was, not as much staff. A lot of people were falling ill. During the first peak, there wasn't enough beds. I think if that wasn't the case, if we were able to taper down that peak, it wouldn't have been like that. But given the situation and our generation experiencing for the first time, I don't think there was any other way that it could have been better. Unfortunately, although I've thought about it many times and wished that it could have been.
And how do you think, as a person, how did you cope? You weren't able to be, physically there with your mom. How were you personally just dealing with this?
It was very hard. My mother, she was my best friend, so losing my mother was, losing my earth. Like, I felt displaced. I felt like lost. And, I feel like, unfortunately, I didn't have much time to cope with my feelings because I work in the medical field. So a lot of people were falling ill. And once, I had to get back in there, I just had to rush right in. And I felt like, helping others is kind of what helped me to cope with dealing with my passing of my mom, just being there for my patients and trying my best to work with everyone to fight this invisible enemy. I wish I had more time to cope with it. I'm still coping. It's still very hard.
Still very hard today. Ms. Castro, what's your opinion on wearing the mask?
I think it's extremely important that, everyone does their part and wear the mask. I think that if masks were mandated when we were first aware of COVID-19, I think that we could have saved many lives. I think it's vital to wear a mask. It's morally right to wear a mask. If, it might not affect you as it affected others, but the right thing to do is to wear a mask because you don't know who it might affect near you, whether it's a loved one, friend, anyone. It's just the right thing to do to wear a mask.
Okay, and how can you tell the world, how are you healing?
You go through the stages of mourning, especially, someone who's very close to you. And it's really like, you have waves of it. And the best thing to do is to leave it up to God. I'm not a completely religious person, but I do believe in the higher power. And I felt like he has helped me get through all of this. And, just being able to work with COVID-19 patients and, doing my best to contribute to saving a life, I think that's really helped me cope with all of this. It's very tough, and I'm sure it's very tough for many Americans and everyone around the globe. And, you just have to pull yourself together and, do the right thing.
All right. Well, at this moment, I would like to take a moment of silence for Ms. Ramos. So everyone can acknowledge that this was a good woman, a good mom, a good friend, and she was loved, and we just want to remember her. Thank you all for watching Connecting Ends. Real life, real people, real grief.